right, folks. I appreciate y'all tuning in. As far as today goes, I just want to give like a really high level outline of what we'll be touching on in this channel. And down below, if you want to see more content from me, you can hit the link to my link tree. You can find my Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm posting everywhere. I'm all over the place like a ninja. But anyways, we're going to get into today's topic. Again, we're just going to keep it high level and we're going to touch on the adaptation equation. If I can type here, there we go. The adaptation equation. So what does this mean? So obviously, this is a fitness page, fitness, performance, wellness, whatever you want to call it. We're here to grow. We want to perform better, have more energy, improve our physique, whatever that may be. So this happens in the form of adaptation. So an adaptation of exercise would be building muscle or getting stronger, more powerful, getting faster, better cardio, leaner, whatever that may be. The adaptations can vary, but in order to get these adaptations, there's some inputs that are going to play in. So we have training plus nutrition and recovery. Get rid of those periods. And this equals adaptation. So nutrition and recovery, they kind of fall into the same category a little bit, but I like to keep them separate. But they do kind of fall into the same category because your nutrition is essential for your recovery. So I'll kind of box these out like so. So training, our training stimulus can come in many different forms. This can be weight training, running, plyometrics, literally anything. A little better. Put it as athletic training, sports training, any form of physical activity. I'm going to highlight that. So some parameters for proper training stimulus. First and foremost, you have to progressively overload. Well, before progressively overloading, you have to train hard enough, or the stimulus has to be difficult enough. I'll put it like this. So the stimulus has to be difficult enough to spur some type of growth. So to give a extreme example, if I just lift my hands over my head like so, if I do it 1,000 times, no matter how many times I do it, this isn't enough stimulus for me to build muscle. So I'd have to load enough weights in order to break down enough muscle to get the stimulus to build. I know all this stuff seems super simple, but a lot of people, or every single person that I've ever worked with, has some type of issues in some form in the adaptation equation. So you have to understand the interplay and the parameters that go into each of these categories so that you can get the results that you're looking for. So you have to have enough stimulus, and the stimulus has to change over time. So once you respond to a certain stimulus, your body's going to adapt in order to be able to handle that stimulus. So the stimulus has to be a little bit harder the next time, but it gets a little bit complicated because the stimulus, it gets harder to recover from it over time. So you can't just push harder and harder and harder. Eventually your body's going to burn out and break down. So you have to get a little bit more nuanced with how you piece together your programming over time. So as a recap, for our training stimulus, it's any form of physical activity that's going to spur growth. The two main parameters that are going to play into getting a proper training stimulus are, one, the stimulus has to be difficult enough to spur some type of change, and two, the stimulus has to change over time. Those are the two main things. Pretty simple. So next we have nutrition. Obviously, this is the foods we're putting into our body. So some parameters around nutrition to spur growth. We have to be, or pursue growth or change or weight loss, whatever it may be. To pursue the desired change that we're looking for, we have to be consuming the right amount. Do this like this. So consumption based on activity level. So depending on how active you are on a day-to-day basis is going to determine the amount of calories that you need to be taking in. So for example, someone who is a professional athlete or works in manual labor, so they're active throughout the day, the amount of food that's required for them to be eating on a day-to-day basis is going to be completely different for someone who is sedentary and only works out a few times a week. So your consumption has to meet your activity level, and you also have to have a proper balance of nutrients and nutrient source is going to play in as well. So if technically you're meeting your calorie markers, but as an extreme example, if you're only eating predominantly one type of macronutrient, then you're not getting the nutrition requirements that you really need. Furthermore, if your food sources are junk foods or other processed foods, then that's not going to help either. Again, simple stuff, but it's important to understand these interplays. So just really got to dial in on this high level stuff. So next we have recovery. So this is essentially our sleep. Active recovery. So we'll touch on the different types first. Most important form is going to be sleep. Then we have active recovery. This can be walking. Anything low intensity. Swimming, biking, gardening. Literally any type of movement that's low intensity, that's not going to require much effort from you, is going to be active recovery. So obviously sleep is going to be most important with this, for sure, but active recovery is definitely useful as well, especially if you're sore. And a lot of active recovery is going to involve being outside, which is also extremely important. So if you're just spending all your free time sleeping, then you're probably not going to get the best out of your recovery, as opposed to if you find a solid balance between all of these. So let me erase that quickly. Some parameters around recovery. Has to match your activity level. So if you're a professional athlete who's training multiple times a day, then you have to sleep more than the normal person, and you're going to benefit from that. Whereas if you're someone who is not as physically active, then you don't really have to sleep as much. But I mean, obviously it's still very important to make sure that you're getting enough sleep at night, but it's going to vary depending on from person to person. So it has to match your activity level. So a lot of people, and again, this seems simple, but it's really important to note, a lot of people, they'll increase their training stimulus a lot, and we're going to kind of dive into this a little bit further, and they won't increase their recovery along with that. So they run into a lot of trouble as a result. So we're going to kind of just run through, now that you understand the different forms or the different components of the adaptation equation, now we're going to kind of touch on a little bit of the interplay that you'll see between the three of these, just as some, so you can have like a little bit more of like a higher level understanding before we, week to week, we'll kind of dive into some deeper nuance. So if we increase our training, we're also going to have to eat more and recover more. And will yield favorable adaptations. Pretty simple. But this gets screwed up a lot, especially with women. A lot of times women, so in common diet culture, it falls under the move your body more and eat less. Well, if you're already in like a really metabolically inactive state where you're not eating much at all, and you just work out more and eat even less, then you're setting yourself up for disaster. So if you're training more, then you need to eat more. You're going to boost your metabolism. You're going to build more muscle. And then as long as you're boosting your recovery with this, then you're going to get the adaptations that you're looking for. So if you're training more, but you are not matching your activity level with your nutrition, then your recovery is going to suffer. And this will affect your sleep. So if you miss out on one of these, then you're going to screw both of these. And then you're not going to get the adaptation that you're looking for here. So if you train more, you don't focus on your recovery, but you do focus on your nutrition, you may see some results in the short term, but over the long term, your recovery is going to suffer. And this will also, the stress from your recovery is also going to affect your appetite as well. So in turn, it's going to go from solid nutrition. It's going to affect your appetite, and then your nutrition is going to get poor as a stress response. Can't talk. From your lack of sleep. All right. So these two, nutrition and recovery, are going to play in a lot. So ultimately, if one goes up, the rest have to go up as well. If you like, this is like the main starting point is your training here. So if you bring your training up, you start training harder, moving your body more, you have to bring these up with you, or else you're not going to get the adaptations you're looking for. You bring your training up, you're not eating as much, you're not going to recover well, you're not going to sleep well, you're going to increase your stress response in your body, and you're not going to get the adaptations that you're looking for. Same here. If you decrease your training and you decide to eat more, you're probably going to recover well, but you're going to get fat. So you can't train less and then start eating more, or else you will get fat. Oh, I know. Yeah, no shit, Pete. But these are stuff that you have to touch on because this is where people make mistakes. So if your training stimulus stays the same, constant, you improve your nutrition, or you keep it constant, you keep your nutrition, or you keep your recovery constant, or you improve it, you're just going to maintain. So you're not going to see any new adaptations. And that's okay. So if you want to be in a state of maintenance, then you can keep your training stimulus the same, but don't expect to be like, oh, why aren't I improving? I'm working out and stuff like that. Well, you're doing the same shit all the time. So this lesson I know may seem simple. It's super high level, just like a breakdown of what the interplay looks like between these components to the adaptation equation. But it's important that you understand these foundational pieces, because if you don't, then you're gonna make some big mistakes over the long term, and it always comes down to the simple fundamentals. So check out the links below. What you can do, there's 2 links. So first and foremost, there's a link to the 3 mistakes training. This kind of dives into some of the issues that I ran into in my own practice coming up, and how I made adjustments to fix those. I think that's super valuable. And then in addition, as I touched on earlier, there's also a link to my link tree where you can check out my other social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I think that's all of them right there. But anyways, check me out, give me a follow, subscribe, and like this. See you next time.